and roll, Chicago. Rock and roll, Chicago, my hometown. Well, I was born in the city, gonna rock your city, Chicago. Chicago rock and rollers are the best you're ever around.
Here's Paul Martin
And Ray the Roadie.
for the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. How you doing today, Ray?
I'm doing good. I'm heading down south to sunny Florida.
You are?
Well, no, not really. Telephonically, maybe.
Oh, I see.
Who we interviewing today?
Today we have Mark Dawson.
And he's in Florida.
Yeah, he is. in
See, I
Florida.
told you we're going to Florida.
Yeah, it's not in the budget.
It is on the budget.
But Mark is former member of
Street Kids,
Street Kids,
Dreamer, All-Night Newsboys,
All-Night Newsboys, and that one here.
and currently the Grassroots.
Currently the Grassroots.
And a bunch of other bands, and he's doing other stuff, and I'm sure all you want it to do is find out what he's doing and what's new with Mark Dawson.
That's right.
So let's go talk to him. Let's go listen.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. You don't have to tell me twice.
Okay, let's go.
I said you don't have to tell me twice. Hey, this is Paul Martin
And Ray the Roadie.
for the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Joining us today in our studio in beautiful downtown Joliet, Illinois, actually via phone, bag phone. I think it's a bag phone he's using. It's Chicago's very own Mark Dawson. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. How are you? And it's not just a bag phone, okay? This is a singular bag phone. I'm back on the singular network.
Nice.
You're probably the only singular person out there then. That's why you're getting a signal.
There you go.
I had an old bag phone, and my wife yelled at me. She thought I was talking about her.
Oh, but no.
Oh, hello. Hey,
Yeah,
guys,
don't-
I appreciate you inviting me on the show. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. So, let's get right to it. Let's what's the start of Mark Dawson? Where did it all begin?
Oh boy, I started. Well, I was born in Chicago. By the time I was about 12, we went out to moved to Berwyn, Illinois. If you remember Berwyn.
Yes, sir.
Of course, you remember because you live by. I don't see it much, but that's kind of when I started playing guitar at about probably 12 or 13. And honest to God truth, I happened to meet Jim Peterick as I was about to go to Morton West High School. I was just entering, and I was a freshman, and everybody knew who the Ides of March were, back then. And it turns out Jim Peterick was a senior when I was a freshman. So I met Jim just by chance, and I just was so impressed. Such a nice guy. I was like, well, I want to play guitar. I want to, be in a band with Jim Peterick, which we've played together since then. But that was kind of the start of it. I just, Jim was a neighborhood guy, and, of course he had a hit single, but he was just a great guy. And he was always helping out with, the kids, the musician kids. That's
Right.
kind of what got me going with Jim.
Wow, you just fell into the right place at the right time for you there.
It really was. It was just a by chance thing, and like I said, we've come to become friends later. But that's what got me going. Hooked me right in.
Have you done anything with Jim Peterick at all? Recording or writing or anything?
We did some songwriting. Well, I had moved away from Chicago area early '90, but it was probably around 88 or so. And Jim and I did some songwriting together. Actually, one of the tunes ended up on, I think it was my first CD. It's so long ago I forget.
Yeah.
But we actually wrote a few things, and Jim had me actually sing some demos he was doing for, I think it was Group Europe at the time. He thought my voice fit that, so... after I moved, though, we run into each other once in a while, and that's really about it now. Just a
Right.
hey, hello, how are you kind of thing.
What was your first group that you started or you played in?
Well, I mean, really, the first group wasn't until high school. It was a group called Mile High, and it was kind of funny. The way I wasn't really looking for a group. I had learned a few guitar chords. And one day I won't say his name because he was one of the you know, the guys that were the band geeks back then. They were in the marching band in high school.
Right.
Yeah.
You know him, you know. And it was this guy. He called me, and I was like, "What?" He says, "Yeah, listen, Mark, this is," and he says his name. And I go, "Yeah, I think I know who you are." And he says, "We'd like you to join our band as a singer." I guess I was in a play, you know, a musical at school, and he heard me sing. And I said to the guy, I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't really know how to, you know, play guitar or anything. I'm not really popular with girls, and that's what we need. So will you join?" So I don't know where he got that popular with girl thing, but it sounded good to me. So I said, "Yes, I will join. There's girls." And that's how it started. I had no idea what I was doing. And these guys had a killer horn section for high school kids, even though they were, you know, it was band nerds, but man, they could play.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of, that band was Mile High, and it had fun. We played in high school, and it was once I got out of high school where then I started to play, you know, travel, play professionally all over the place.
They were all horn bands back then, weren't they?
Well, there certainly were a crop of them, and
Yeah.
you know, some not so great, as we all know. Some really good though.
So after that, was there anything else, or did you get going to Street Kids after that?
There was a couple of, I did play with a few local groups. It wasn't so much local as they were playing mostly Holiday Inn type shows all over Illinois, Iowa, Missouri. We would go up to Wisconsin. There was a band called, their name was Kix, K-I-X.
Okay.
And that's what led to, I played with them. They were guys who were all 10 or 15 years older than me. It just, that's a long, not so great story, but they happened to need a bass player real quick. And I dropped in, and then I ended up staying for about a year and then putting Street Kids together while I was doing that. And that's it's kind of what led to Street Kids.
And you
my
guys,
first real band. I guess that'd be my first real band.
right? And you guys made the WKQX Hometown album, didn't you?
We did the very first one. Yeah, we had I think it was the opening track on the album. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was the song was Street Kids.
Yes, it was.
Street Kids by Street Kids. Yes.
It was later entitled "Enjoy the Show." That was the gist of it. But at the time I named it Street Kids for the band.
It kind of had a Styx influence to me.
That's what I've been told. You know, of course, at that time, you know, what else? I mean, Styx was going big. That was the arena band sound, and we did maybe steal one of Dennis's synthesizer licks or two, maybe.
Yeah, didn't we all? Yes.
That's what you were hearing at the time, so that stuck to you. So
that's right. Yeah, it was there. It was readily available.
So how long was Street Kids together?
Probably was only about 3 years, maybe a little more. We sort of crashed at the end, and which was too bad because the band was a good band, and personalities clash, things happen,
right?
And then I just sort of segued right into Dreamer, which we had for about another 5 years or so. Actually, with you guys might know Scott May.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, Scott and I played together. We known each other since about 1970, and that was our first. We played together briefly, but the first band that played out anywhere was that one. We kind of segued into Dreamer, and then that was a fun band. That was
Scott
lasted a little while.
Scott now coincidentally plays and works with Jim Peterick.
Yeah, keyboard player for like 25 years with the Ides of March now.
Right. That's funny how things come full circle, isn't it?
Yeah, and Scott and I have done some recording as well since, like all this has come back around again. We've actually sort of Scott and I, and Scott would be the first to admit it, we used to be tooth and nail at each other. And it was mostly over creative things. And we look back now, we go, man, we were these 20-year-old punks who thought we knew everything. And then we'd argue with each other. He would write a lot of music. I would write a lot of music. And when we'd try to bring them together, we would just fight. And
Yeah.
And it's funny, all these years later, Scott and I have been doing things since about 2010 now. We've been doing various things, and we'll present an idea to one another, and the other guy will just say, yeah, that sounds good, let's go with it. Not like before where we're ready to throw down. I don't like that idea.
No more bickering, huh?
Oh, it's a whole different thing. It's much easier this way too. Much easier.
Well, I think as we all get older, we get a little more mellower. Would you say?
There is no doubt. Those little things that I used to think were so important that I don't even know what they are anymore. They're not important.
So tell us a little bit about Dreamer. And did you and Scat do most of the writing, or? And you did some Cappy tunes as well, right?
Oh yeah, we just when we played. You got to play the full club nights. Our drummer Rich Mahota was also an excellent songwriter. He didn't get out in front or anything. He sang a little bit, but he wrote some really nice songs. He wanted to be Billy Joel, and he really did write in that style. Sadly, he died he passed away about 15 years ago. Just like so many friends that we, you and I both have. But that group lasted. Dreamer was a lot of fun. We had a contract with Epic Records. Was on the table. It was ours to. It was ours. We were set to sign it, and then we had an event that happened. We were signed to play an 18-date tour with Heart, and that was back when Heart was just really getting big. And the tour was to open at Poplar Creek.
Wow.
You guys remember Poplar Creek?
Sure.
Back a ways. The actual date was August 23rd, 1982. And our equipment truck never, ever showed up for sound check. And we never played the show. And Epic Records took the contract right off the table.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it goes a little deeper, but
who was in charge of that? Who was in charge of the truck getting there? Yeah, he lost his job. I'm taking it.
Well, I'll tell you, this is true, and this, those mystery shows you see on TV. This should have been one of them. So this guy, his first name was Chris. Chris was our road manager, and he was amazing, by the way. I mean, back then. He was just a guy who got everything right, and you didn't have to worry about anything because Chris was on it. So this gig comes up, and Chris is on it. And all I know is this. Okay, so I didn't have to worry about it because Chris was our guy. I get a call about 3:00 in the afternoon. Back then there were no cell phones, so it was at my apartment. And the guy backstage says, if we don't get your gear by 5, the group can't go on. And this was a Saturday. It was too late to rent anything. So it turns out, and we don't know all the details, and I'll never know them. This guy just didn't show up. I got a phone call. So we didn't play that night. Everything fell apart. Got a phone call at about 3:00 in the morning from the Downers Grove Police Department. My truck, which was in my name with all the gear in it, was abandoned in a field near their high school. And
wow.
They said, the doors were open and everything was in it, but someone found it in a field. And this guy, Chris, never saw him again, went to his apartment and it was empty, cleaned out, empty. So we don't know what happened. Never found out. Truck abandoned, his apartment empty, never saw him, and we never played.
But your equipment was still on the truck.
The back doors were open and everything was there. Can you imagine that?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you're talking amps, keyboards, drums, every bit of it was guitars. All of it was there.
Jeez, that was lucky, that part.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, we thought we would never see any of that stuff again. Is what we thought. But there it was, 3:00 in the morning.
and there went the record contract too, right?
Right out there, right down the highway with wherever Chris went to.
Yeah. So on radio, the song that you had that one on the Loop album.
Oh yeah, that was yeah. And Rich Mahota wrote that one. Our drummer wrote that too.
Okay. Tune. Now, did you sing that?
I sang. There was two parts. Anthony Jordan sang the lead. He was our guitar player, and then I sang in the lead part of the chorus.
I was checking out Mom's radio. I was trying to rhythm and blues it. She said, "Honey, you can turn my stereo on, but you gotta know how to use it. Now turn it up just a little bit louder. Turn it up just a little bit louder. Turn it up. Oh, you got to turn it up. Radio.
So that one kind of sounds Elvis Costello-ish to me, you know. It's got a, yeah. I don't know why. It's what I listened to it earlier today, and that was my first impression.
You know, at that time, it was probably 79 or 80 when that came out. So, you know, there may have certainly been some. I know we were all Elvis Costello fans, no doubt about that. Maybe they're just the influence came through.
Yeah, it was 1980 that the Loop album came out, right?
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, we weren't afraid to steal anybody's ideas, trust me.
So tell us now, how did you get to where you're at now, playing with the Grassroots?
Okay, well, the way that came down, so after Dreamer kind of went to this, I wanted to have a band that could, I didn't want to have a job. So I wanted a band that could play all the time, and I figured it had to be 100% cover. So that's what I set out to do. I put together the All-Night Newsboys, and we did 100. Well, later on we added, but at first 100% cover. And I kind of, when we did cover, I figured if you're doing it, go all in. So whatever song we were doing, I would try to emulate that vocalist, whether it was Sting or Don Henley or Alice Cooper or whatever we were playing, I wanted to sound like that song, you know, on that record. So 15 years I had the All-Night Newsboys before I moved to Florida, and just kind of, you know, stopped. Basically, I stopped playing. So fast forward, moving to Florida here, we were working with an agent out of Chicago when I had All-Night Newsboys. A guy named Jim Lenz.
Sure.
Used to be with, remember, I think it was Toonsmith was his company. He and Dave Graff was there, I think.
Right. Yeah, I know Jim. I know Jim Lenz.
So I hadn't talked to Jim in a bunch of years, but it turns out Jim went out to an agency in Ojai, California, I think a company called Paradise Artists.
Paradise, correct.
And I didn't know that at the time, but I got a call. This would be toward the end of the 90s. Jim Lenz called me to fill in a couple of dates with. Well, he didn't tell me. He just said, "How well can you sing the Grassroots?" Because he always used to think I sounded like the original artist. And I said, the Grassroots, I know all their tunes. They are one of my favorite pop groups. And he said, "Well, I got a gig on the weekend. If you can show up and sing, it might lead to more." So I had 4 days to learn all their entire set. And all I know is I showed up in San Francisco 4 days later. And I did 2 shows that day with them, and I've been in the band ever since.
Wow! And you played bass with them that night too?
That night I did not play bass because, but 2 weeks later when I started playing bass, when Rob Grill was toward the end of his career, he had a bass player, and Rob would just stand there and sing, and I was filling in vocals only for this. And,
I see.
And so they had a bass player. I think his name's Mike Steck. He played a few shows, and then it was, I was like, well, the guys didn't even know I played bass. The guys in the band, they just know I came in to do vocals. I said, "You guys know I'm a bass player. they're like, what? And so we try to get, and it was like, as soon as I played, they were like, oh, no more Mike Steck. Sorry, Mike. But I didn't want to just sing. I'm not comfortable as a singer. I'm only comfortable when I have a guitar on and then I sing.
Right.
It's the strangest. I've tried it. I'm just not comfortable with a mic in my hand.
Yeah, well, that happens. I know. Once you get in a certain situation, and you're comfortable with it, that's the way you want to do it.
Yeah. Plus, I get to, I'm not as skinny as I used to be, so I can hide behind the bass a little bit.
Yeah, we all have that problem, I think. So,
so tell us a little bit about some of your solo work. You've got a few CDs out there.
I do the solo stuff that I do. So, especially since joining the Grassroots, I do things that are just different. I don't follow any kind of Grassroots formula. It's nothing. The Grassroots do not record new music. Just to be very clear, you won't find anything ever new from the Grassroots. We only do the hit songs.
Right.
As far as mine, I just I don't know if it's called what you'd call it, singer-songwriter stuff, but I don't really follow a formula other than I'm very much a pop music fan, verse, chorus, bridge type stuff.
Right.
It's pop songs with catchy melodies. That's all I try to do. Recently, I've done 2 CDs with that are covering classic tunes, and then putting just like 2 songs of my own on.
Oh, okay.
But like my last full-length original was at the end of 2016. I put an album out called Off the Grid.
Another tank of gas and I'm back on the road, looking for a town that nobody knows. Take a left, right, turn around, anything goes. It's gonna be another one of those days. There's got to be a place, there's got to be a time. I'll never look behind me. I just gotta get off the grid and grab what is mine. It's gonna be another one of those days. When the skies go dark and the train ain't rolling, I keep my head held high and my thoughts pure gold. And a little bit of love goes a long, long way, but for now, it's gonna be. And I really believe that's my best ever work, actually. I think it's even when I was a young, proficient stud. I thought this album was even better. But I love doing the cover songs because I just kind of remake them, reimagine them, and
sure.
Do them however I feel at that time. I kind of do that. It's been fun.
Okay, so you're not performing those live or anything. That was just some things you recorded and put out there. Right. Well, when I do play solo shows. I do house concerts mostly. Oh, okay. Where I don't know if you guys have done any of those, but they're just fun, and they're somebody brings you to their home. You play for 35 or so people. It's so rewarding because it's silence. They sit there in silence, and listen to what you say and what you write, and there's what you get, the little stories. They love that, right? And then you play the song, and it's really nice because it's not like a party. It's not like playing at a party. This is people sitting in chairs right there in front of you and waiting for what you're going to say next. And then when it's over, then their party begins. And I've been doing those for about the last 3.5 years or so. Okay. And
do you play
love doing those.
Do you play acoustic guitar when you do that?
Right. I just bring a Martin guitar and a tiny little PA. So, in fact, I've done it. You don't even need a PA. It depends on the room, right, playing it. It's nice. And then I'll do a couple of Grassroots songs, acoustic guitar. But I think because people are maybe expecting something, but I play it toward the end. Maybe play Let's Live for Today or Temptation Eyes, something like that. Right. Those are always crowd pleasers or wherever you play them.
Well, yeah, because of course somebody said something to someone, and you say, "Well, yeah, this guy's with the Grassroots," and you don't do anything. They're going to be.
Yeah, why didn't you play any Grassroots songs? Well, you hired Mark Dawson. You didn't hire the Grassroots.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your show, your Making Noise with Mark Dawson show.
Every Thursday night, we go out live. We're syndicated, so I've got 5 networks right now, but the live network that carries it on Thursday is they call it the Hall of Fame Music Network, but it's the home station is 107.5 out of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I don't know how. Don't even ask me, because I don't remember how I got hooked up with people in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Somehow I did. And they offered me a slot for a radio show. And I remember the guy saying, so what do you want to do on your show? What kind of format? And I said, I really just want to play whatever songs I like. And he said, that sounds good. And he says, you got a demo? And I don't even know what a radio demo is, to get a job in a radio station.
Right.
And I said, well, sure, I've got a demo. And then I looked it up on Google as soon as I got done talking to him. And then I figured what they do, and I put together a little fake demo. And 3 days later, he calls me back, says, this is 6 years ago now. He says, when do you want to start? And that's it. I've been started out with one station, but we're syndicated now, and we're in Pennsylvania, we're in South Carolina, we're in Indiana, we're in Orlando, Florida, we're in Flagler Beach, Florida, and the last one is we just added. I'm trying to think where it was now. It's in the Northeast, but I can't remember which. Oh, Plymouth, Massachusetts. Plymouth.
Oh, okay.
That's where it was.
Can we find it on the internet?
Yes, that's the easiest way, in fact, because if you just look, the best way to find me is HOFM Radio, which is Hall of Fame Music and the word radio, HOFMradio.com. And that leads, that's a live feed, 24 hours a day. I come on, my program on that network is 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 Central, every Thursday night, and I do a 2-hour show. It airs on Saturday. It airs a couple times on Sunday, and someone else airs it. I forget which station. They air it on a Monday night also. Okay. So from Thursday to Monday, but you can always stream and listen because it's archived. Every show is on my own website. It's archived at markdawson.us. So if you don't hear it live, or if you don't catch the syndicated rebroadcast, my website always keeps it there as well.
Very good. Very good.
I'm everywhere, guys. You can't get rid of me.
Where else can we find you? Anywhere else on social media?
On Facebook, I'm usually saying silly things on Facebook.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, you see a few. That's my wife's fault, by the way. She said, I don't know, this is a bunch of years ago, I would say goofy things or send her a text with something goofy. And she said, you should share that with your friends. Like, nobody wants to hear that. And she said, no, really, you should put it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And just for the heck of it, I started doing it. And all of a sudden I started getting just friend request after friend request over and over again, just because they wanted to read those silly things. I went, all right, I'll keep thinking of them if you keep reading them. And that's how it came down.
They are quite entertaining.
Thanks. Now, if we can just find a way to turn that into cash flow.
No, you got that right. And of course, people can find you on the Grassroots website and Facebook page.
Right. They always link, right? The Grassroots would link to me. The Facebook thing, if you're on Facebook, you can look up Dawson Bass. It's my last name plus BASS, and that'll take you right to my Facebook page. You don't have to friend me. You can just read my baloney if you want. It's all there. You can't get rid of it.
So you've been out on tour, on the Happy Together tour several times, and the Flower Power tour, correct?
Oh yeah,
Or cruise, I should say.
Yeah, we're doing that one again. Flower Power comes up again in March of 2020. That cruise does. I don't know if you guys are into cruises. I didn't used to be until Time Warner came up with that one. And I'll tell you what, and I'm speaking not only just as an artist or musician on the ship, but actually as a visitor, as a fan of 60s and early 70s music. That is absolutely top notch. Everything they do on that cruise, the acts they bring in, the crew, man, the front of house guys, the monitor guys, the stage guys, the equipment itself. They bring equipment for 25 different bands on that ship, and everybody has exactly what's in, every spec of the writers covered perfectly. I mean, it's like I expect to share gear, just because you're on a cruise ship. No, these guys they get your writer to a T. And the nice part about it is that it looks and sounds great. The fans just can't get enough. This is an expensive cruise. It's a lot more expensive than a standard, cruise. But when you're getting 25 acts, most of them are name acts. People don't mind to pay a little bit extra. They get 7 days from 10 in the morning until midnight. 7 days of real live 60s and 70s music. It's really an awesome, good time on that ship.
Who are some of the groups that'll be on there?
Let's see. We'll have the Association. There'll be the Box Tops. We've got the Classics 4, the Buckinghams. Of course, the Buckinghams from Chicago.
Sure.
Peter Noon with Herman's Hermits will be on there. The Yardbirds, the Hollies, the Zombies, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. It goes on and on and on. And plus the Guess Who is also on there. It just I as a fan, and I am a fan, I never sleep. But I'm not playing I'm going from stage to stage, to hear them. And I know all these guys, but it's so much fun just to, and the atmosphere is you can't beat it. You're out on the open seas, rocking and rolling. That's not a bad thing.
That sounds awesome. Sounds very good.
So you guys are keeping busy touring quite a bit, it seems like, of what I see on Facebook.
Yeah, Grassroots, we have steadily increased over the last 10 years. Our shows we've been getting more and more. We're doing about 80 a year right now, about it. Give or take, maybe it's 76 or 82, I don't know. But we did about 80 shows for the year, and looks like 2020 is going to be about the same. Just mostly, we don't do a lot of Midwest. Although I will be at the Arcata Theater on March, I believe it's March 14th. I know it's a ways, but I always look forward to coming back to the Chicago area. We mostly get out on the West Coast or in the Northeast. We're in Philly and Massachusetts, Maine, and New Hampshire and New York all the time, it seems like. But during the summer, we'll hit we'll hit the Dakotas, always upper Wisconsin, and do things in Iowa and such. And we're forever in Las Vegas. I guess that comes with the territory. We're probably in Las Vegas six, 7 times a year.
Sure.
I don't mind being in Las Vegas. It's not a bad thing. It's just we're always there.
Right.
Now, of course, the group was nominated or inducted into the American Pop Music Hall of Fame, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that was, I think it was 2016. Interesting about that. We were excited about it. And then they didn't have an official induction. Well, they planned on one, and then the building that they were constructing, I guess it's in the hometown of Bobby Vinton. when they got everything in order, I guess it all fell through. I don't know all the details, but they never did have an induction ceremony. We got a piece of paper that said that the band was part of the America's Pop Music Hall of Fame, which is very cool because we were inducted along with the association, Barbra Streisand, Neil Sedaka. I mean, there were some big names that when we got in there. So I was very proud of that. It was very nice.
The reason I bring that up is because we're talking to you now from the Illinois Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is planning on opening sometime next year. But they've got a setup for us here with microphones and phone hookup and what have you in order to do our podcast. We got linked up with them a few months ago, and maybe we can get Mark Dawson into the Illinois Hall of Fame at some point.
You know what? I would love that. You're hanging out with my old buddy Ron Romero out there, then, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm a charter member, by the way. I am a member of the Illinois Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because that is a wonderful movement, and I've talked to Ron about this a little bit. I know that strides are being made, and I know you guys got your building in order, and it's going up, and that is so cool that it'll actually become a reality. I know Ron works hard on that, and as everybody else involved does as well. I'm actually on the CD that they put out to raise funds. I don't know, maybe it's 8 or 10 months ago,
right?
Where they, I have a track on there. It was very nice of Ron to invite me to participate, and I was glad to do it. And if they could ever find a spot for people who didn't matter very much but really love Chicago and Illinois, then they could put me in there. I'll take that little dark corner any day if it's got anything to do with rock and roll music. I'm in. I'd love to be.
Well, Paul's band, M&R Rush, they're on that CD along with you.
Right. Oh yeah. You guys. Was it the six tune?
Right. We did a six tune. Correct.
It was cool. I remember that because I've listened to it a few times, and that was a good surprise when that came on because I just put it in. I didn't look at who was doing what. That's right. I forgot.
Well,
great.
I remember. Well, I remember Dreamer from. Of course, we were on the same album then too, back in 1980 on the Loop album with you.
Right. That's right.
And but I remember the All-Night Newsboys. I remember I also played in the Dancing. Still playing the Dancing Noodles. But I remember seeing the All-Night Newsboys a couple of times. I believe O'Reilly's Daughter or somewhere on the South Side.
Oh yeah, we played Riley's a lot. Yeah, many times.
Well, it's been great talking to you, Mark.
Well, I appreciate you guys, asking me and sharing. Good to share a few stories. I miss my Chicago music days. I will say that. Now, I do not miss the Chicago weather, and I'm not saying that as a dig. I love my Chicago peeps, but you all need to come down to Florida to hang with me because it's just so much. Especially, I know you guys have like 3 or 4 inches of snow. I heard the other day. Like, that's insane. It's
a beautiful sunshiny day here today. It's beautiful, sunny, but it's only about 37 degrees. So.
Oh man.
Well, it was 23 this morning when I got up.
Oh man, we were 92 yesterday. I don't know what the temperature today is, but 92 is a little hot for October.
Okay, I think we need to end this now.
Hey, you started throwing numbers at me. Man, yeah, I miss my Chicago friends. That was had great times and great musicians in that city. That's for sure.
Yes,
not like that where I live now. It's not the same kind of music scene in this Central Florida region. Right. I often say, on B-League or this, I say this to my wife, and I'm so happy, and I always was honored to be a member of the Grassroots. I'm going on 13 years as a full-time member. But I say if that didn't work out, if we didn't connect and be part of that, I couldn't find myself as being a part of this scene in Central Florida. So anyway, I'm just glad that it came out the way it did because I love working and I give it everything I've got all the time and always will. But it doesn't. same thing doesn't work down here with other folks. So I'll stay on the road.
Well, we appreciate all the music that you've given us and all the good times and everything else. Believe me.
Well, thank you very much. It's always been my pleasure. I like I said, when I come back to Chicago, I get excited about it. I know I'm going to see, people that from my past that are good people.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for bringing it up again for me. I love it.
No problem.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time out, and maybe we'll get a chance to see you up at the Arcada in March next year.
And that would be cool. It'd be good. Yeah, let's chat before then, and we'll make sure we make it happen. That's with Gary Puckett and the Union Gap that night.
Oh, okay.
They're great. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Hope to see you soon.
All righty, Mark. Thanks.
You guys be good. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, I think Mark Dawson has the story of the day.
The story of the week, month maybe, of the year. That's crazy. To have your roadie dump your truck with all your equipment and just disappear.
Yeah.
I mean, me being a professional roadie myself, I would never think of doing that because really the gear we got isn't all that good.
Yeah. Thanks. Tell that to Marty.
But no, that's crazy. That's a great story, though.
Yes, it is.
Great story.
But unfortunately, they didn't get a record deal because of it.
Yep, that hurts. But he's I think he's been very fortunate. He's been very busy throughout his whole career. He's played with many bands, and now he's with the Grassroots. He's got his radio program. He's a busy man.
Yes, he is.
Busy man. Make sure you guys go out and see him when they're in your area. Grassroots, they're playing all over the place. So check their website, check them out, and go see them. Tell them Paul and Ray sent you.
That's right, and they're coming. He's coming. He said they're coming to the Arcada, right? And
in March, I believe, March of 2020. Yeah. So anybody in the Chicagoland area, check it out. They'll be there. So otherwise, as usual, make sure you're liking us and following us on iTunes and Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts from. Like and share our Facebook page. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. I don't care.
Tell somebody.
Tell somebody, please.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Chicago, rock and roll.